The Dauntless trembled violently as alarms blared through the control deck. Commander Elena Morrow gripped the edge of her console, her eyes darting to the screen displaying erratic gravitational distortions. "Lieutenant Voss, status report," she barked, steadying herself against the rhythmic shudder of the ship. Caden Voss, her second in command, frowned at the data streaming across his terminal. "It's not a malfunction, Commander. We've been pulled out of hyperspace by an artificial anomaly." Elena's heart sank. They were deep in uncharted space, far from any known trade routes or colonies. The odds of encountering hostile forces were high. "Prepare the crew for immediate combat readiness. And get me visuals, now." A flicker on the forward screen revealed a battlefield sprawled across the void, 2 alien armadas locked in a brutal exchange of fire. Energy beams, pulsing with lethal precision, ripped through the darkness, colliding with shimmering shields. Elena's breath caught in her throat as one ship, larger than any Terran craft, exploded in a cascade of flame and debris. "We've stumbled into someone's war zone," Caden muttered, his tone grim. "And we're the small fish in a very big pond," Elena replied, her voice taut with focus. "Helm, evasive maneuvers. Keep us clear of that crossfire." The Dauntless jolted again, the vibrations reverberating through the floor as another alien weapon discharged nearby. Elena clenched her teeth, watching as her ship weaved between the blasts. This was no ordinary skirmish. The sheer scale of destruction suggested advanced technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. "Commander," Caden called out, his voice low. "We're being hailed. It's one of the larger ships." Elena's pulse quickened. Whoever these aliens were, they were powerful enough to drag her ship out of hyperspace. But this wasn't the time to show fear. "Open the channel." A hologram flickered to life before her, revealing a towering alien figure with skin like burnished metal and eyes that glowed with an eerie, violet light. Its voice was a deep rumble, almost mechanical. "Human vessel, you are now in the territory of the Vernac Empire. You will assist us in destroying our enemies, or you will be destroyed yourself." Elena's fingers twitched against the console, fighting the instinct to lash out. They were in no position to challenge these beings, yet surrender wasn't an option. "We don't take sides in conflicts we don't understand," she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady. The alien tilted its head, unimpressed. "Your defiance is meaningless. You will comply, or we will reduce your ship to debris." Caden shot her a look, his face pale under the harsh lights of the bridge. "Commander, we can't fight them. Their weapons, they'll tear us apart in seconds." Elena's mind raced. She didn't trust this empire, but one misstep could end them all. The Vernac didn't seem interested in negotiation, just power. "We need time to figure out what we're dealing with. Tell them we'll assist," she said quietly to Caden. His jaw tightened, but he nodded, relaying the message. The alien's hologram flickered once more, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Good. Do not disappoint us, human." As the transmission cut out, Elena felt the weight of her decision settle over her. They were caught in a game far more dangerous than they could have anticipated. Her crew's lives depended on her ability to navigate it. Caden exhaled sharply. "You think they'll keep their word?" Elena didn't answer immediately. Her gaze was fixed on the alien warships looming in the distance. "We'll find out soon enough." Outside the ship, the void remained vast and cold, indifferent to the fragile lives aboard the Dauntless. But Elena knew one thing with certainty: if humanity had one defining trait, it was survival. And they would find a way through this, no matter what the Vernac or anyone else thought. As the tension in the room grew palpable, Elena squared her shoulders. The real fight had just begun. The Dauntless surged forward, cutting through the void, its engines humming with quiet efficiency. Elena stood at the bridge, staring at the screen, where the battle between the Vernac Empire and their enemies raged. Explosions bloomed like dying stars, casting fleeting shadows across her face. The ship vibrated under the weight of incoming orders, tension simmering in the air. "We're too close," Caden warned, his voice sharp, eyes locked on the alien ships. "One stray shot, and we're done." Elena inhaled deeply, scanning the tactical display. We don't have a choice. The Vernac want us involved, and if we don't play their game, they'll end us before we even get the chance to turn tail. Caden finished grimly. A brief silence settled between them, punctuated by the distant hum of the ship's systems. The crew worked quietly, their movements quick, disciplined. Elena could feel their eyes on her, waiting for her to make the next call. Commander, the Vernac flagship is requesting combat support. Ensign Ramirez called from her station, her voice tight with fear. They're ordering us to fire on the opposing fleet. Elena's stomach twisted. The Vernac had made it clear they were expendable. The Dauntless was outmatched in every conceivable way, its weapons, shields, and speed nothing compared to the alien behemoths surrounding them. But outright refusal wasn't an option either. We can't just sit here and play pawn, Caden muttered, his jaw clenched. There has to be another way. Elena's gaze flickered to the screen again, watching the battle unfold like a deadly dance. The Vernac ships moved with ruthless precision, their enemies struggling to hold their ground. And amidst it all, her small human crew, caught in a conflict they had no part in creating. Her decision had to be made now. Ramirez, hail the Vernac flagship, Elena ordered, her voice cutting through the tension. A few seconds later, the imposing hologram of the Vernac commander materialized before her, towering and radiating arrogance. You have received your orders, human. Obey or be obliterated. The Vernac growled, its metallic voice reverberating through the bridge. Elena held its gaze, refusing to let the alien intimidate her. We'll assist, she began, keeping her tone measured. But we need time to calibrate our targeting systems. Our technology is inferior to yours. We wouldn't want to waste your valuable resources by firing blind. The Vernac's glowing eyes narrowed. You question our commands? No, Elena replied, standing her ground. I'm ensuring we don't become more of a liability to your operation. Give us a few moments, and we'll engage properly. There was a long pause, the alien commander assessing her with cold, calculating eyes. Finally, it gave a curt nod. Do not delay. Your usefulness has limits. The hologram flickered and vanished. Elena exhaled, tension knotting in her shoulders. She turned to her crew, who were watching her with a mixture of uncertainty and quiet admiration. Caden stepped closer, his expression unreadable. You bought us some time, he said, lowering his voice so only she could hear. But it's not much. Elena nodded, her mind already working through the possibilities. We're not firing on anyone. Not until we know what's really going on here. Caden's brow furrowed. You think we're missing something? Look at them, Elena replied, gesturing to the battlefield. The Vernac are too powerful, too efficient. They've had us pinned from the moment we arrived. But they're still struggling against the enemy fleet, and that doesn't add up. Whoever the Vernac are fighting, they're not weak. So you think we side with the enemy? I think we need more information before we make any decisions, Elena said firmly. If the Vernac are this ruthless with us, what do you think they'll do once their war is over? Caden nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. We need to find out who the Vernac's enemies are. Elena straightened, her voice clear and resolute. We have a small window to act. Prep a recon team. We're going to get answers. As the crew moved to carry out her orders, the pressure weighed heavily on Elena's mind. The Vernac would not tolerate betrayal, and yet something felt deeply wrong about aligning with them. Their survival now depended on threading the needle, finding the truth in a conflict far larger than humanity had ever anticipated. The Dauntless sailed into the darkness, its crew bracing for whatever came next. But one thing was certain, Elena would not allow her ship to be a pawn in someone else's war. The silence inside the Dauntless was unnerving as Elena led her recon team through the ship's lower decks. Every footstep echoed sharply, heightening the tension that coiled around the crew like a vice. The Vernac fleet had given them a temporary reprieve, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before their patience wore thin. Caden walked beside her, his hand never far from the pulse rifle slung over his shoulder. I don't like this, he muttered under his breath, his eyes scanning every shadowed corner as if expecting something to leap out. "We're on borrowed time." "I know," Elena replied, her voice low but steady. She understood his unease. No one trusted the Vernac. They were brutal, calculating, and far too willing to use humanity as cannon fodder. But there was no turning back now. They had to find out what the Vernac were hiding, or they'd all be dead long before they ever reached safe space. As they moved deeper into the ship, the air grew colder, the hum of the engines a distant thrum beneath their feet. The darkness closed in, thick and oppressive, but Elena pushed on, determined. "How's it looking, Ramirez?" she asked, glancing back at their tech specialist, who was monitoring the ship's scanners. Ramirez tapped a few buttons on her wrist console, her brow furrowed. "No signs of interference yet, Commander. Whatever's out there, it's keeping quiet." "Too quiet," Caden muttered. Elena didn't respond. She couldn't afford to let doubt creep in. Her crew was relying on her to make the right call, and second-guessing would only get them killed. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. The Vernac weren't the type to let potential allies roam free without oversight, and yet here they were, left unsupervised on a recon mission. Something didn't add up. "Commander," Ramirez called out, stopping abruptly. "I'm picking up an energy signature. It's faint, but it's there." Elena stiffened. "How close?" "Less than a kilometer deeper into the structure." Ramirez pointed toward a passage ahead. "It's coming from one of the lower cargo bays." Caden exchanged a wary glance with Elena. "Could be a trap. Could be exactly what we're looking for," Elena countered, her mind racing. "If the Vernac are trying to cover something up, that's where we'll find it. Or it's where we get vaporized," Caden added dryly. "Only one way to find out." Elena gave him a tight smile and motioned for the team to move forward. They advanced cautiously, the tension building with every step. The walls seemed to close in around them, the metal groaning under the weight of the massive ship. The passageway led to a massive set of doors. Ramirez crouched by the control panel, her fingers moving swiftly across the interface. "I'm overriding the lock now. Just give me a second." A loud click echoed through the corridor, and the doors slid open with a hiss. Cold air rushed out, carrying the stale scent of something long neglected. Inside, the cargo bay was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of emergency lights. Crates were stacked high against the walls, but it wasn't the supplies that caught Elena's attention. At the center of the bay was a large, cylindrical structure, alien in design, and pulsing with a soft blue light. The hum it emitted was low, almost inaudible, but it vibrated through the air, making the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. "What the hell is that?" Caden whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Elena stepped forward cautiously, her mind working through the possibilities. It wasn't Vernac tech, that much was clear. The design was too organic, too alive. She glanced at Ramirez. "Can you get a reading on it?" Ramirez approached the device, her scanner buzzing quietly. "I'm not sure what this is, but it's not a weapon. At least, not in the conventional sense. It's giving off strange energy signatures. Something I've never seen before." Elena's stomach twisted. "Whatever it is, the Vernac don't want us to know about it. Commander, this thing could be dangerous," Caden warned, stepping closer to her. "We should get out of here. Now. We can't leave without figuring out what they're hiding," Elena argued, but even as the words left her mouth, she knew he was right. They were in over their heads, and every second they lingered increased the risk of the Vernac realizing what they were up to. Just as Elena was about to give the order to retreat, a deep, mechanical voice echoed through the cargo bay. "Unauthorized presence detected. Initiating lockdown." The doors behind them slammed shut, the lights flickering ominously. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as she turned to face the now sealed entrance. "Caden, Ramirez, we're out of time," she barked, pulling out her sidearm. "Find us a way out, now." Ramirez frantically worked the control panel, sweat beading on her forehead. "It's locked from the central system. I can't override it from here." Elena's mind raced, adrenaline surging. They were trapped, and whatever the Vernac were hiding wasn't just a secret, it was a weapon. And now, they were about to be caught in the middle of it. Caden, Elena said, her voice low but urgent. We need a plan fast. We're going to have to fight our way out of this one. Caden replied grimly, readying his rifle. And hope we can outrun whatever's coming. The hum from the alien device grew louder, vibrating through the floor, as if it were waking from a long slumber. Elena's pulse quickened. Stay sharp, she ordered, her voice steely. This isn't over yet. The tension in the air was palpable as they prepared for whatever came next. And for the first time, Elena wondered if they would make it out alive. The low hum of the alien device resonated ominously through the cargo bay, its pulsing light casting eerie shadows across the walls. Elena's pulse raced, her grip tightening around her weapon as her mind worked through the possibilities. They were trapped, with no clear way out, and time was running out. The Vernac's lockdown was a death sentence if they didn't act fast. Caden had already moved into a defensive position, rifle ready, his gaze sweeping the dark corners of the room. We need options, Elena. This isn't the place we want to make our stand. We won't, Elena replied sharply, her voice steady despite the urgency swirling within her. She wasn't about to let her team die in this cold, alien cargo bay. Ramirez, what's our status? Any luck with that control panel? Ramirez's fingers flew over the panel's holographic interface, her face illuminated by its dim glow. No good, Commander. They've locked us out. This is all running from a central system, likely controlled from the bridge. So we're locked in with an alien device we don't understand, waiting for the Vernac to come clean up. Caden growled, not taking his eyes off the doorway. Elena clenched her jaw. Not if we move fast. Her mind raced for a solution, for anything that could get them out of this predicament alive. She couldn't let the team be captured, or worse. Not like this. Ramirez, Elena said, her voice firm. Can you interface with the device directly? There has to be something we can use to our advantage. Ramirez hesitated for a moment, glancing warily at the glowing structure in the center of the room. I don't know, Commander. It's not like anything we've encountered before. If I mess with it, we could trigger something worse. Or we could figure out what it's doing here and use it against them. Elena pressed. It's a risk we'll have to take. With a resigned nod, Ramirez approached the device, pulling out her data pad and connecting a cable to the interface port on its surface. She knelt by the alien console, her brow furrowed in concentration. All right. I'll see what I can find. Caden let out a heavy breath, his eyes darting between Ramirez and the still-closed door. I really hope this thing doesn't explode in our faces. Elena shot him a sideways glance. Let's keep the optimism up, shall we? Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as the device continued to hum, its blue light growing faintly brighter with each pulse. Elena could feel the tension rising, like a storm on the horizon. Something was coming. Whether it was the Vernac or something far worse, she couldn't tell. I've got something, Ramirez announced suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. This device isn't a weapon. At least, not in the way we'd expect. It's some kind of control hub, but it's connected to a larger network, like it's syncing with something else. Something else? Elena asked, stepping closer. Yeah, it's linked to multiple systems throughout the ship, Ramirez explained, her fingers flying over her data pad as she pulled up the schematics. From what I can tell, it's coordinating some kind of energy transfer. I don't know what for, but it's massive. Caden's eyes narrowed. Are they powering something? A weapon? Another ship? Maybe. Or maybe this is just a conduit, Ramirez replied, her tone growing more uncertain. But whatever it is, it's big. And if we leave it unchecked, we can't let that happen. Elena finished for her, a sense of dread creeping into her voice. They didn't have the luxury of time or answers, but they had to act. Caden stepped forward, his rifle at the ready. Then we shut it down. Elena nodded, weighing their options. Ramirez, is there a way to disrupt the network from here? If we can sever the connection, it might give us some breathing room. Ramirez hesitated, biting her lip. I can try. But if I do, it'll alert the entire ship. They'll know we're here. We're out of choices, Elena said, glancing at Caden. We either fight now or wait for them to finish what they've started. Caden nodded grimly. I'm with you, Commander. Ramirez took a deep breath and resumed her work, tapping into the alien network with deft precision. The device's pulsing light grew erratic, flickering as she manipulated its systems. The hum rose in pitch, almost like a warning. Come on, Ramirez muttered under her breath. Suddenly, the device let out a sharp whine, and the lights in the cargo bay flickered violently. Elena's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, the room was plunged into darkness, save for the faint glow of the alien structure. And then, with a deafening crack, the device shut down. The hum ceased, and the bay was eerily silent. Ramirez stood, her face pale but triumphant. It's done! I've severed the connection. Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was short-lived. A heavy thud echoed from outside the cargo bay door, followed by the unmistakable sound of marching feet. They're coming, Caden growled, his weapon at the ready. Elena's grip tightened on her sidearm as the tension in the air thickened. Ramirez, grab your gear. Caden, we're moving out. We'll find another way off this ship, but we're not going down without a fight. The door rattled as something pounded against it from the other side. Elena locked eyes with her team, her resolve hardening. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing the dark silhouettes of Vernac soldiers. Weapons raised, their glowing red eyes locked on Elena and her team. Move! She shouted, and the firefight erupted, the sound of gunfire and plasma blasts echoing through the bay as they dove for cover.